All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I am really excited about this one. Everyone's heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right?
Of course, the classic.
Yeah. Ships and planes just disappearing, poof, gone.
Out of thin air.
Yeah, and it's been happening for what, like 60 years now? That we've been paying attention to it?
Yeah, at least the last 60 years, it's been a big mystery.
Big mystery. Well, get this. There's a place right here in the U.S. that makes the Bermuda Triangle look like a fender bender.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called the Nevada Triangle.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, so it's smaller, but arguably even more dangerous.
Wow.
And here's the crazy part. Hardly anyone's talking about it.
Yeah, you don't hear as much about it for sure.
No, but we're talking about something like 2,000 aircraft just gone.
2,000.
Yeah, in this 25,000 square mile area.
Jeez.
Between Las Vegas, Reno, and Fresno.
That's a huge area.
It is a huge area, and this is just in the last 60 years.
Wow, that's a lot of aircraft.
It averages out to like almost one plane vanishing every single week.
That's incredible. So what makes the Nevada Triangle so dangerous? What are we dealing with here?
Well, that's what we're going to dive into today, right?
Yeah.
But I think what's so fascinating about this and what really drew me to this topic is that you've got these, genuine geographical challenges, right? Like the terrain.
Right.
And the weather patterns in this area are notoriously difficult for flying.
Unpredictable, right? Especially in mountains.
Exactly. But then on top of that, you have these just truly bizarre disappearances where planes just vanish without a trace.
And no wreckage.
No wreckage, nothing. It's crazy.
So where are we getting all this information from? What are we looking at today for this deep dive?
Yeah, so we've got a few key pieces of source material. There was a YouTube video that really kind of put this on our radar first.
Okay.
And then we dug into some news articles, covering both like factual reports and some of the more the lingering mysteries, the theories and stuff.
But always got to have the theories.
Oh, yeah. And then we also found this really interesting aviation blog post.
Cool.
That really dives deep into like the technical aspects.
Okay.
Particularly focusing on the Steve Fossett case.
Ah, yeah, the famous Aviator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to really break this down for you guys. Let's map out this region. Let's really grasp the scale of just how many planes have gone missing.
Right.
And then let's dive into all these different theories, both the scientific ones and the ones that are a little more on the fringe, and try to understand why the Nevada Triangle is so dangerous.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm excited to dig into this.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so first things first, where exactly is this Nevada Triangle? What are we talking about geographically?
So think of it like this. You've got Las Vegas down in the southeast, Fresno to the west, and then Reno kind of up at the top.
Okay.
Draw lines between those 3 points. And you've got the Nevada Triangle.
Got it. So like a triangle shape.
Yeah, and it's about 25,000 square miles, so pretty big.
That's big.
And a lot of that is within the Sierra Nevada mountains.
So it's mountainous terrain.
Oh, yeah, very much so. High peaks, rugged terrain.
Makes sense. And I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of that land is actually owned by the U.S. government.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then just as a little side note, Area 51 is right there on the edge of this area, just northwest of Las Vegas.
Oh, wow. So right in the vicinity?
Yep. So, maybe that's fueling some of the more conspiracy-minded theories out there.
Well, let's come back to that.
We will. But first, let's just talk about that number again.
Yeah.
2,000 planes gone in 60 years. That's just mind-blowing.
I know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
It is. And the YouTube video we watched, they made this really stark comparison
Okay.
to the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Which, it gets all the press and everything, but over a similar time frame, they've only had maybe 50 ships and 20 planes disappear.
So way less.
Way less.
And the Nevada Triangle is a lot smaller.
Exactly. So the density of disappearances in the Nevada Triangle is just insane.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is what makes it so intriguing, right?
Totally. And when you start looking at the timeline of all this, the earliest recorded disappearance in the Nevada Triangle seems to be from 1938.
Okay.
And here's where it gets interesting. 1938 is also the year that research began at Area 51.
No way.
Yeah, so, you can see how people start connecting those dots.
I can definitely see that.
Right, so let's get into some specific cases, because I think the details of some of these disappearances are really what make this so compelling. So, you can't talk about the Nevada Triangle without mentioning the B-24 bomber that went missing in 1943.
Yeah, I read about that one. That was a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, so it was a routine night training mission. This B-24 took off from a base near Fresno, headed for Tucson with a full crew, and then poof, just gone.
Just like that.
Yeah, radio silence, no distress call, nothing. And to make things even weirder, the very next day they sent out 9 other B-24s to search for the missing plane.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
One of those disappeared too.
Are you serious? That's insane.
Yeah. I know, it's like something out of a movie, right?
It really is.
So fast forward to 1955, they're draining this reservoir called Huntington Lake for some dam repairs.
Okay.
And bam, they find the wreckage of that second B-24, 190 feet underwater, with the 5 crew members still inside.
Wow, so they were just down there all those years.
Yeah, just totally undiscovered. And then the following year, a group of geologists, they stumble upon the wreckage of that first B-24, the one that went missing in 43.
Wow.
In this remote lake that's now named Hester Lake after the co-pilot of that missing plane.
Oh, wow. That's kind of eerie,
Ugh.
but I guess it's a nice tribute in a way.
It is. It's a way to remember them, but it also just shows you how vast and rugged this terrain is. You know, even large aircraft can just vanish and be completely hidden for decades.
Yeah, it's a good point. It really highlights the challenges of searching in that kind of environment.
Absolutely. Okay, so then there's this truly bizarre case of Lieutenant David Steves in 1957.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about him. That was a strange one.
So Steves, he's flying a T-33 training jet from somewhere near San Francisco, headed for Arizona when his plane just disappears.
Another one gone.
Yep. They did a massive search but found absolutely nothing. So the Air Force, they officially declare him dead, case closed, right?
You would think so.
Wrong. 54 days later, Steve just shows up out of nowhere.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's like gaunt and his clothes are all tattered. He claims that he had to eject from the plane after some kind of explosion on board.
Oh, wow.
He says he dragged his parachute for miles, survived for weeks in the freezing cold backcountry of Kings Canyon National Park.
Wow.
And lived off the land for over a month.
That's incredible.
I know, it's a crazy story, right?
It is, but hold on. How did he even survive that long? It sounds almost impossible.
I know it sounds crazy, but that's what he claimed, and some people were obviously very skeptical.
Right, I can imagine.
There were even rumors going around that he maybe sold the plane or something, you know?
Trying to cover something up.
Yeah, but Steve's, he always stuck to his story. Unfortunately, just a few years later, he died in another plane crash.
Oh, wow. That's so sad and strange.
It adds like another layer of mystery to the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
20 years after Steve's disappeared, a group of Boy Scouts, they're out hiking, and they stumble upon the canopy of his jet.
Oh, way.
Yeah, like right there in the wilderness, which seems to back up his whole ejection story.
Wow, that's wild. So at least that part of his story was true.
Yeah, it really is amazing. But the main wreckage of the plane, it's still out there somewhere undiscovered.
Wow, so there's still parts of this mystery that remain unsolved.
Totally. Okay, so moving on, we have the case of Charles Ogle in 1964. This guy was a wealthy, experienced Marine Corps pilot. He took off from Oakland, headed for Las Vegas, and just vanished.
Another one gone without a trace.
Yeah, no trace of him or the plane ever found. It's just baffling.
It really makes you wonder what could have happened.
I know, and then jumping ahead a bit, there's the case of Major Ross Miller in 1986.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he flying an F-117?
He crashed near Bakersfield, and officially the cause of the crash was never released.
Really?
Yeah, they kept it pretty hush-hush, but there were some sources in Congress that suggested that he was actually flying some kind of experimental aircraft, you know?
Oh, wow. Like top secret stuff?
Yeah, something with advanced materials that Lockheed Martin had developed.
So maybe that's why they kept it quiet.
Probably, and it definitely adds to this whole idea that there's some shady stuff going on in that area.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's talk about the case that everyone knows, the one that really brought the Nevada Triangle into the spotlight, Steve Fossett.
Yeah, this is the big one. So for those who might not be familiar with him, who was Steve Fossett?
So Fossett was this incredible adventurer. He had a really successful business career, but he was really known for his record-breaking feats in aviation sailing and all kinds of other crazy adventures.
Yeah, he was like a real-life Indiana Jones.
Totally. He held a ton of world records. Like, he was the first person to fly solo nonstop around the world in both a balloon and a fixed-wing aircraft.
Wow.
I know. And he set all these speed and distance records in sailing. He competed in the Iditarod sled dog race. He even raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Wow, this guy did it all.
Yeah, he was like the ultimate thrill seeker.
So he was incredibly experienced across a wide range of, aircraft types and and just extreme situations in general.
Yeah, he'd done it all, seen it all. You'd think he could handle anything.
Exactly. But then on September 3rd, 2007, he takes off from a private airstrip in Nevada in this small plane called a Balanca Super Decathlon.
Okay.
And he's just going for a short recreational flight, nothing too crazy,
Right.
but he never returns.
Wow. So even with all that experience, something went wrong.
Yeah, and this is something that one of the blog posts we read really pointed out. Even though Fossett had thousands of flight hours under his belt,
Yeah.
he actually didn't have that much experience in this specific type of plane. Yeah, only like 40 hours out of his total 6,731 flight hours.
Huh. So maybe he wasn't as familiar with it as he thought.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So to make matters even more complicated, he didn't file a flight plan.
That's not good.
No.
All right.
And he wasn't wearing a parachute, and he didn't have a cell phone or a GPS tracker with him.
So no way to track him or contact him?
Nope. And even though the Super Decathlon had an emergency locator transmitter, it never sent out a signal.
So they had no idea where to even start looking.
Pretty much, it triggered this massive search and rescue operation, one of the largest and most expensive in U.S. history.
You can imagine.
Yeah, they had hundreds of people out there searching the Civil Air Patrol state and county authorities.
Wow.
Even some of his famous friends like Neil Armstrong and Richard Branson got involved.
Wow, so everyone was looking for him.
Everyone. And it's crazy because during the search, they actually discovered 8 other previously uncharted crash sites.
Oh, wow.
Which just shows you how many planes are probably still out there undiscovered.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought.